Now, Nigeria faces a mix of urgent challenges and cautious optimism as 2026 unfolds. Security remains a national crisis, with armed groups continuing deadly attacks and mass kidnappings in Kaduna and other northern states, exposing gaps in protection for communities and criticism of law enforcement responses. Economically, the International Monetary Fund forecasts steady growth, but many Nigerians still struggle with high cost of living and persistent poverty as food prices and inflation burden households. Oil sector performance and budget execution also pose fiscal risks, even as the government marks gains in infrastructure and macroeconomic stability. Amid these headlines, Nigerians and leaders alike are calling for practical solutions that translate economic indicators into real improvements in safety, jobs, and everyday life.
Now joining us today is the Social Democratic Party's presidential candidate from the 2023 general election, Prince Adebayo, is here to share his perspective on the state of the nation. Prince Adebayo, thank you for joining us live on Daybreak.
Thank you, Gwenga, and God bless Nigeria.
Now, I just had a thought looking at the electoral track race with the electoral draft still in serial gestation. How would you react to the fact that these laws that would ensure a free, fair, and credible election is still not ready with barely a year to the 2027 general election?
Well, I've always made it clear in every election cycle that I don't personally believe, and the SDP we don't believe, that you have to pass law for every election. The most important thing is to have good politics, to see that your politics emerges from the people and mirrors their needs, and that the reason why your political party is in the contest is an aggregation of all the concerns of Nigerians, and they believe in your vehicle to operate it.
But the concerns are on electronic transmission, which many people believe will be the game changer, like enabling the IRF portal to be the major determinant of this race, of this contest. Don't you think that those issues are very important, not to mention issues of electoral offenses?
Well, you see, electioneering is what politicians worry too much about. The foundation of politics is what we worry about in the SDP. If you remember my speech on October 1, 2021, when we had a summit and everybody was talking about IRF and all of that, begging for it, and I told them, okay, what happens on election day if the INEC switches off the IRF? So now you're talking about IRF to transmit the result. Will it not transmit the result of vote purchased and bought with money? So I think if we want to reform our politics, let us reform our politics comprehensively. If the National Assembly wants to improve on the law, that's welcome. But the law that is in existence right now needs to be obeyed. So I'm not too worried whether they change the law or not. I'm concerned about the fact that every political party should try to play their politics the way we play it in the SDP, which is that we obey the law, we don't cheat, we don't commit crimes, and we don't encourage people who commit crimes to come to our party to do it. And our politics is based on issues, and we're looking for candidates and activists who are dealing with the problems identified in their localities and aggregating all these issues together so that when we are campaigning, it reflects an aggregation of all the issues bothering our people. Secondly, if we win, we govern to address those issues in line with Chapter 2 of the Constitution. But fighting over electioneering, defection, all these things, I don't think those are the things that the SDP wants to emphasize. We want new politics, new people coming to politics. If the National Assembly wants to pass a law or amend the law to improve in certain areas of weakness or weaknesses, we welcome them, but we are focused more on getting the people engaged in the politics.
Right. Since you say your party focuses on real governance, let's pivot a little bit to the economy. It's been reported in many papers this morning that the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, announced in Davos, where they are having the World Economic Forum, that Nigeria will focus this year on local resource mobilization rather than heavy borrowing. He talks about more revenue generation, investments, and the rest of it. As a citizen of Nigeria, will you be clapping for the minister? A lot of people have hailed this announcement and this so-called plan and move. Will you be clapping for him, or how do you interpret this announcement?
First, with all utmost respect to the government, Wale Edu is not a proper Minister of Finance because he cannot run and obey the Appropriation Act. Normally, where the system works, because of Wale Edu's disobedience to the Appropriation Act, because he's running 3 simultaneous budgets, because he's not funding any of them, he will be removed, and if he's not removed, the president himself will be impeached. They are not able to meet any of the economic targets. So the speeches they are making at Davos, those are just mere speeches. If we want to invest in the economy, we will deal with the fundamentals of the economy. Number one, you have to ensure that you follow the Appropriation Act, that you account for government revenue, and that if you have deficit, you finance the deficit legitimately through approved methodologies by ways and means, that you keep your inflation down, and that you keep the value of the currency up, and that you are able to create enough fillip in the economy to allow people to create enterprises and to earn proper living wages. And the surplus of household incomes and business income is where you will now target your appropriate taxation. That is how you run an economy, and you make sure that, having handled that fiscal aspect very well, that your monetary policies actually encourage Nigerians to be able to get employment. So none of this is being done. So Wale Edu is more a good negotiator of foreign loans than he is a manager of domestic economy. And all the speeches given at Davos, if you do analysis of them, every country has gone to Davos is going there with their own internal agenda. Only Nigeria has gone there to try to speak to please people. The reality of the economy of a developing country is that you must do social justice with your economic planning. You must be accountable so that every Nigerian knows that the resources of the country that are monetized, that the money is showing, and you must be able to create sufficient incentive for your people to get fully engaged and to build infrastructure. In the developed world, infrastructure is meant to improve efficiency. But in the developing world, infrastructure is meant to modernize your country, to take your people from living in the Stone Age like a kind of lifestyle. For example, how do they get their water? How do they move around the country? Incessant similarity of the attacks shows that it's a low-level kind of banditry and warfare, which is not beyond police effort. It is not a situation that you have in Ukraine where a superpower is invading you. It's not Venezuela where some foreign dictator is coming to whisk your president away. It's a case of low-level banditry in an environment that shows absence of government rather than the presence of crime per se. So in those days of Sunday Adewusi as the Inspector General of Police, even the mobile police force will be able to drive away these bandits. So the government has two problems. One, they are totally not on ground, and security is one area where you cannot go to Davos and tell tales. In the economy, you can cook your own book and announce any percentage of inflation. But in security, you have to be on ground, and they don't have the capacity to be on ground. Secondly, they are a victim of domestic and international sabotage because of the way in which they allow themselves to be blackmailed into certain deadlines and ultimatums. So as a result of this, there are people who are sponsoring and staging banditry and problems for them. both because their own personnel are making money out of it, because the government is spending over 4 trillion on defense this year. And if you look at the budget very well, a lot of it is to address carry of money to appease warlords and all of that. And this is where their own security personnel make a lot of money. And any country, any commander-in-chief that does not know how to monitor the income of his own senior military officers, where someone's annual salary can be 12 million naira and their wife is having a big birthday bash in Dubai and other places in the world, and people who are serving in uniform are running hotels all over the country. And this kind of banditry is an internally incentivized banditry. So the government has abandoned its duty. It is not because Nigeria is particularly an unsafe area, but anywhere in the world where a government is asleep, bandits will come. Even in the United States, if you remember, that there were Mexican and other Latin American gangs, they were coming around California, Texas, and all of that in the years where it looked like the government was looking away. So anywhere in the world, if you look at Europe, people were practically smuggling people across the English Channel into the UK. So anywhere in the world where the government is absent, where the government is unserious, where the government is abdicating its duty, you will see this. So Nigerians need to understand that it's not our sub-region hasn't changed that much. Of course, there are some problems from the Sahelian corridor, but it is because we've had weaker and weaker government, less committed to the duty to preserve life and property of citizens.
Okay, I want to take you back to your strong criticism of the current government's economic reforms. You made categorical statement that we're having an overlapping budget, multiple budgets at a time. But some might want to argue that that might be an outplay of what some people call a force majeure, which means an unforeseen circumstance in a situation. Because we should also look at the reforms of the fuel subsidy removal, the unification of the naira, and the economic headwinds of the huge debt servicing, because the World Bank and the IMF are commending the government. So perhaps it's important we look at your economic redemption plan coming from the SDP. How better would you have run this economy considering those economic headwinds?
First, let us not abuse the word reform. What they are doing is not reform. What they are doing is just change of language or misuse of economic terms. There's no reform, because reform means that the drivers of the economy have to have fundamental restructuring, which they are not doing any of those. So now there's no new plan on capital formation, no new plan on labor recruitment, no new attitude to entrepreneurship, and I'm not making the market rules to apply to everybody. So let's leave that aside.
I'm asking for your solution.
I'm coming to my own solution, but I need to lay a foundation as to what is on ground, why it's not working. Our own solution is based on 5 pillars. 1, you do not dislocate the economy. We oppose the subsidy removal for this simple reason, not because we love subsidies, but because in every economy, you have to locate your subsidy somewhere. In China, the subsidy is located based on government support and availability of labor. In the US, the subsidy is located in cheap capital. America has the cheapest access to capital in the world. In Nigeria, ours was based on low labor wages and low factor costs. Those were the things we will have used to compete. Now, they removed the subsidy on fuel, which was costing around 1 trillion at that time, and they created a 17 trillion dent in the economy. And now they are still doing the subsidy in any way, but instead of giving it to the consumer, they are giving it to themselves. So that's the first pillar. We're not going to disturb the economy and allow factor prices to go up, because the last 4 years now, we have had 600% inflation in the critical sectors that consumer index. Second, we are going to ensure that the real problem that creates gap in the economy is the unaccountability of government money. If you remove subsidy and save 1 trillion and 7 trillion is stolen in 1 quarter. You have done nothing. So up till now, not Wale Edun, not President Tinubu, not Senate President Akpabio, not Abbas, the speaker, can tell you how much is in government revenue. They don't know it. And they say it every time when they ask ministers to defend the budget. In our own case, even a newspaper vendor on the street will know the state of the economy and the revenue coming in. Okay. The third issue is to deal with employment. Okay. If you have single-digit employment, almost zero unemployment, you are going to drive the economy because everyone who is working is creating value and is getting value back. Okay. Fourth issue, we are going to make sure that we address the issue of socio-economic justice, that the budget is spent towards the need of the people. If you look at all the 3 budgets, they don't even apply properly, you will see that 85% of the budget goes to debt servicing and capital transfer and all of those things that don't impact on the people. Lastly, we need to build infrastructure. And I'm not talking of fantastic infrastructure that you see on television. I'm talking of basic infrastructure like good roads, okay, housing, a basic thing. Telecommunication that doesn't work well now, and doesn't even reach rural areas. Even you can't go and greet your grandma at home. She will tell you, I have 3 telephone lines and I still can't reach you. So you need to do basic things. And of course, the elephant in the room, electricity. Okay. Electricity is not witchcraft, and they've not been able to address electricity either way because the person in charge is trying to raise money to go and contest election somewhere. So they're not serious. Those are the things we are going to do differently.
Very quickly, in regard to the budget, appropriation, and the economy, you sounded very unimpressed with the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and you did suggest his dismissal, and also suggested that President Tinubu should be impeached. I'd like to ask you, your party does not really feature in the National Assembly, and the National Assembly at the Senate and the House of Reps, we have the APC as the majority party, and other parties acquiesce to the APC as well. So how are you going to go about this impeachment, or is this just talk?
Basically, number one, in the National Assembly, we know we lost our senator recently who died, but the members that we have there, you can check them, you can interview them, they're very active. But the National Assembly doesn't belong to politicians and doesn't belong to the APC. So it is the people that will have to put pressure on the National Assembly. People have to say we cannot be robbed under the law because the Appropriation Act is the official way to spend the resources belonging to Nigerian people. And if it's being stolen right in front of you and it's being mismanaged, the Nigerian people need to visit the Assembly and remind the Assembly that if you are not able to do this, that there's no reason for you to continue. So it is not the game of those who are already involved. It's a game of the people who are left outside. The SDP is not representing those who are in the National Assembly already. Okay. The SDP is trying to get all of them out, including the president, and put the people in power. It's rather unfortunate that we are pressed for time, as we always do here. It's been an inspiring and insightful one from you, Chief Adebayo, Prince Adebayo Adewale of the Social Democratic Party and former presidential candidate in the 2023 elections of the same party. Thank you very much for your insightful contribution. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Benga Ashur. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Constance Ikoku. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.